born Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali and is widely hailed as one of the greatest and most influential athletes of the 20th century. The three-time heavyweight champion possessed unrivaled speed and agility inside the ring, and an unmatched wit and charisma outside. He would come to be celebrated all over the world, a symbol of tolerance and understanding, but was militant and confrontational in his youth. His first title bout came in 1964. Few thought he had much of a chance.
I predict tonight somebody will die at ringside from shock.
In 1964, the champion was Sonny Liston, and he was absolutely unbeatable. Cassius Clay was the 7-1 underdog.
But Clay dominated the fight. He eluded Liston's fists, and by the 6th round was hitting the champion virtually at will.
I think that they feel now that Clay have all the confidence he needs and go home and defeat Sonny.
When Liston didn't answer the bell for the 7th round, Clay became the heavyweight champion of the world. It was clear from the very beginning that Clay was going to be a different kind of champion. Brash, outspoken.
I have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest.
Soon after his victory, he joined the Nation of Islam and changed his name to Muhammad Ali. But many people and many publications, including the New York Times, continued to call him Cassius. Some asked if he might officially change it, as a reporter did in this press conference captured by KTVU news cameras.
Well, who would have the face? The judge is what color?
I don't know.
He's white. So in other words, I'd have to ask a white man, may I call myself Muhammad Ali, boss?
He was very sensitive about my rightful name. And in several very cruel fights, one with Floyd Patterson, one with Ernie Terrell, he taunted them. He tortured Floyd. It was like a little boy picking the wings off a butterfly. And he would just kind of punch Floyd and step back.
After Patterson, Ali defeated George Tuvallo in March 1966, and then Henry Cooper in a 6-round TKO in May. He knocked out Brian London in only 3 rounds in August, beat Carl Millenberger in 12 rounds in September, and defeated Cleveland Williams in a 3-round technical knockout in November, in what many experts consider to be the most dominant performance in Ali's Arafoli. He had won 29 fights in 6.5 years, one of the most extraordinary runs in heavyweight boxing history. Although he didn't know it at the time, it would be 3.5 years before he fought again. When Ali refused induction into the armed forces, the State Boxing Commission suspended him and stripped him of his title.
The country was pulling apart, and he's caught, right? He refused to step forward to be drafted. He was stripped of his title, but he stood firm.
The heavyweight champion of the world is telling people that you can take my belt, you can take my championship. And that introduced a lot of us to courage, to honor, to valor. It's not just about running fast, jumping high, but what do you stand for? What are your morals? What are your principles? What stand will you take? What are you willing to risk?
So for the next 3.5 years, he couldn't fight, and he had to make a living mostly by speaking after. As they asked him political questions, he would begin to understand the main threads of American life.
You my opposer when I want justice. You my opposer when I want equality. You won't even stand up for me in America for my religious beliefs, and you want me to go somewhere and fight, but you won't even stand up for me here at home.
And by the end of those 3.5 years, he became a principled man. And that really became his importance in America.
My conscience won't let me go shoot some poor hungry people in the mud for big powerful America and shoot them for what? They never called me nigger. They never lynched me. They never put no dogs on me. They never robbed me of my nationality. Shoot them for what? How can I go shoot them? Them little poor little black people, little babies and children and women. How can I shoot them poor people? That would just take me to jail.
Ali won his appeal in 1970 when a federal court upheld his bid for a state license. He quickly got back to work, beating Jerry Corey and Oscar Bonavino. His chance to reclaim his titles came in March 1971 against his old friend Joe Frazier. It was dubbed the fight of the century. It was Ali's first professional. Ali defeated a dethroned Joe Frazier in January 1974, but his next championship bout wasn't until 10 months later when he squared off against George Foreman in a match in Zaire, dubbed the Rumble in the Jungle.
Most people, including myself, thought Foreman would demolish him. There were 60,000 people in a soccer stadium yelling, Ali Boumaye. Well, what that meant? Foreman was the enemy.
That fight was just masterful. He just blew Foreman's mind. You know, he completely, as much as one competitor could completely turn someone inside out, Ali had completely turned Foreman inside out.
He'd back off into the ropes and let Foreman pummel him. And Foreman would just smash his ribs and everything. And finally, Foreman just kind of punched himself out. And Ali threw a right hand in the 8th round. I looked up and Foreman spun and went down and just had no energy to get up. 3 years after he had lost the Frazier. And now suddenly everybody loved him. That's sports.